Imagine standing at a crossroads. One path looks familiar, comfortable, but maybe a bit boring. The other path? It's a bit foggy, kind of exciting, but also a little scary. Which one do you choose? This moment, right here, right now, as you're watching this video, is exactly like that crossroads. You have a choice to make, and that choice could change everything in your life. Now you might be thinking, come on, how can one decision really change everything? Well, let me tell you a story. There was once a person named Alex. Alex woke up every day, went to a job they didn't like, came home feeling tired and unfulfilled, and then did it all over again the next day. Sound familiar? Alex felt stuck, like they were just going through the motions of life without really living. But one day, Alex made a decision. It wasn't a big, dramatic decision like quitting their job or moving to a new country. No, it was a simple decision to start looking at life differently. Instead of focusing on what was wrong, Alex decided to start noticing what was right. It sounds small, doesn't it? But that one decision set off a chain reaction that transformed Alex's entire life. You see, the power of a single choice lies not in the choice itself, but in what it leads to. It's like dropping a pebble in a pond. The pebble might be small, but the ripples it creates can spread far and wide. That's what happened to Alex, and that's what can happen to you. But here's the thing. This video isn't just appearing by chance. If you're watching this right now, it means you're ready. Ready for what, you ask? Ready to make that choice, to drop that pebble, to start those ripples. You're ready to see your life in a new way, to open yourself up to new possibilities, to become the person you've always had the potential to be. Let's talk about this crossroads you're standing at. On one side, you have the path of staying the same. It's the path of good enough, of this is just how life is, of why bother trying to change? This path might feel safe. After all, you know what to expect. But let me ask you something. When you imagine walking down this path for the next year, 5 years, 10 years, how does that make you feel? Excited? Inspired? Or does it make you feel a little stuck? Now, look at the other path. This is the path of change, of growth, of becoming more than you are right now. It might look a bit foggy because you can't see exactly where it leads. That's okay. In fact, that's part of what makes it exciting. This path is about possibility, about potential, about becoming the best version of yourself. But here's where it gets really interesting. The choice between these paths isn't just about what happens in the future, it's about what happens right now in this very moment. Because the moment you make the decision to take that new path, something shifts inside you. You start to see things differently, you start to feel different, you start to be different. Think about it like this. Have you ever decided to learn something new, like a language or a musical instrument? The moment you make that decision, before you've even learned a single word or played a single note, you already feel different. You feel excited, motivated, maybe a little nervous, but in a good way. You see yourself differently as someone who's growing, learning, expanding. That's the power of the decision itself. Now, I'm not saying that everything in your life will magically change overnight. Real, lasting change takes time. But that first step, that decision to take the new path, that's where it all begins. And the best part? You don't have to wait to take that step. You can make that decision right now as you're watching this video. Okay, so you're standing at this crossroads and you've decided you want to take the new path. Great. But how exactly does this work? How can one decision really change your whole life? To understand this, we need to talk about a powerful idea, the mirror of life. Imagine your life is like a giant mirror. Everything you see around you, your job, your relationships, your bank account, your health, all of these things are reflections. But what are they reflections of? They're reflections of your thoughts, your beliefs, and your expectations. Now, this might sound a bit strange at first. After all, we usually think that what happens in our lives is because of external things. Other people, circumstances, luck. And sure, these things play a role. But the biggest influence on your life is actually you. More specifically, it's how you think and what you believe. Let's break this down a bit. Have you ever noticed that some people seem to always land on their feet, no matter what happens? Or that other people always seem to have bad luck? It's tempting to think that some people are just born lucky and others aren't. But the truth is, it's more about how these people think and what they expect from life. Think about it like this. If you believe that good things happen to you, you're more likely to notice opportunities when they come up. You're more likely to take positive action. You're more likely to persist when things get tough. And all of these things make it more likely that good things will indeed happen to you. On the flip side, if you believe that life is hard and nothing ever goes your way, you're more likely to miss opportunities. You might not even try because you don't think it'll work out anyway. And when things get tough, you might give up because you think, see, I knew this would happen. This is how life becomes a mirror. It reflects back to you what you put out. If you put out negativity and doubt, that's what you'll see reflected back. If you put out positivity and confidence, that's what you'll see. Now you might be thinking, but I've had a lot of negative experiences in my life. Does this mean it's all my fault? Absolutely not. We all face challenges and difficult circumstances that are outside our control. The mirror of life isn't about blame, it's about empowerment. It's about understanding that while we can't control everything that happens to us, we can control how we respond, how we think, and what we believe. This is where your decision comes in. When you decide to see life differently, to believe in yourself and in possibilities, you're changing what you're putting out into the world. And over time, the reflection you see in the mirror of life starts to change too. Let's go back to our friend Alex for a moment. Remember, Alex was stuck in a job they didn't like, feeling unfulfilled. But when Alex made the decision to start looking for the positive, things started to change. At first, it was small things. Alex started noticing when co-workers were helpful or when a task went well. This made Alex feel a bit better at work. As Alex felt better, they started performing better. They were more engaged, more creative. Alex's boss noticed and gave Alex more interesting projects. Alex also started noticing opportunities they had missed before, like a posting for a job that seemed perfect. Now, did the world around Alex suddenly change because Alex decided to think differently? No. The opportunities were probably there all along, but by changing their perspective, Alex was able to see and seize those opportunities. This is how the mirror of life works. It's not magic, and it doesn't happen overnight. But when you change what you're putting out, your thoughts, your beliefs, your actions, you start to see different reflections coming back to you. So what does this mean for you right now? It means that the decision you're facing isn't just about choosing a new path. It's about choosing a new way of seeing yourself and the world around you. It's about deciding to look for the positive, to believe in possibilities, to expect good things. This doesn't mean ignoring problems or pretending everything is perfect. It's not about putting on rose-colored glasses and ignoring reality. Instead, it's about choosing to focus on solutions rather than problems. It's about choosing to see challenges as opportunities for growth rather than as roadblocks. When you make this decision, you're not just changing your thoughts. You're changing your energy, your attitude, your actions, and all of these things together start to change what you see reflected back to you in the mirror of life. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This sounds good, but my life has some real problems. How can just thinking differently solve those? That's a great question, and it's important to address it. First, let's be clear. Positive thinking alone won't solve all your problems. If you have debt, for example, you can't just think your way out of it. You'll need to take practical steps to manage your money better. If you have health issues, you'll need to seek proper medical care. But here's where the mirror of life principle comes in. When you change your thinking, you change your actions. And your actions are what ultimately change your life. Let's take the debt example. If you're constantly thinking, "I'm terrible with money, I'll never get out of debt," how motivated are you going to be to make a budget or look for ways to increase your income? Probably not very. You might even be tempted to spend more because you think, "What's the point? I'll be in debt anyway." But what if you decided to think differently? What if you started thinking, "I'm learning to manage my money better every day. I have the power to improve my financial situation." With this mindset, you're much more likely to take positive action. You might start educating yourself about personal finance. You might look for ways to cut expenses or earn extra income. You might seek advice from people who are good with money. The same principle applies to any area of your life. When you change your thinking, you change your actions. And your actions are what create real change in your life. But there's another important aspect to this. When you change your thinking, you also change how you perceive the world around you. Remember, the mirror of life reflects back what you put out. So when you start putting out more positive energy, more belief in possibilities, you start noticing more positive things and more opportunities around you. It's like buying a new car. Have you ever noticed that when you buy a new car, you suddenly start seeing that same model everywhere? The cars were always there, but now you're noticing them because they're relevant to you. The same thing happens when you change your mindset. You start noticing opportunities, connections, and possibilities that were always there, but that you might have overlooked before. This doesn't mean that everything will suddenly become perfect. Life will still have its ups and downs. You'll still face challenges and setbacks. But when you've decided to see life through this new lens, you approach these challenges differently. Instead of seeing them as proof that life is hard or that you're unlucky, you see them as opportunities to learn, grow, and become stronger. Think about some of the most successful people you know or have heard about. Do you think they never face setbacks or failures? Of course they do. But what sets them apart is how they respond to these challenges. They see them as temporary obstacles, not permanent roadblocks. They look for the lesson, the opportunity for growth in every setback. And here's the really exciting part. You can make the decision to be like that right now. You don't need to wait for something to change in your external circumstances. You don't need anyone's permission. You can decide right here, right now, to start seeing your life differently. Now, I want to be clear about something. This decision, this change in perspective, it's not a one-time thing. It's not like flipping a switch where suddenly everything is different. It's more like starting a journey. You'll have good days and bad days. There will be times when it's easy to maintain this new perspective and times when it's really challenging. But here's the key. Every time you consciously choose to look for the positive, to believe in possibilities, to see challenges as opportunities, you're reinforcing this new way of thinking. You're creating new neural pathways in your brain, and over time, this new way of thinking becomes more and more natural. It's like learning to play an instrument or speak a new language. At first, it feels awkward and difficult. You have to consciously think about every note or every word, but with practice, it becomes more natural. Eventually, you can play songs or have conversations without even thinking about it. The same thing happens with your mindset. At first, You might have to consciously remind yourself to look for the positive or to see challenges as opportunities. But the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, it becomes your default way of thinking. And that's when the real magic happens. That's when you start to see significant changes reflected back to you in the mirror of life. That's when opportunities seem to appear out of nowhere. That's when you find yourself handling challenges with grace and confidence. That's when you start to become the person you've always had the potential to be. So, as we wrap up this part of our discussion, I want you to really think about this. You're standing at a crossroads right now. You have the power to make a decision that could change everything. Will you choose to see your life through this new lens? Will you choose to believe in possibilities, to look for opportunities, to see challenges as chances for growth? Remember, this decision isn't about ignoring reality or pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing to focus on what you can control, your thoughts, your beliefs, your actions. It's about choosing to put out positive energy into the world, knowing that the mirror of life will reflect that back to you. In the next part of our discussion, we're going to talk about some practical ways you can start implementing this new mindset in your daily life. We'll explore techniques you can use to shift your thinking, even when it feels challenging. And we'll look at how these small daily choices can add up to big changes over time. But for now, I want you to sit with this idea. Think about how your life might change if you consistently chose to see it through this new lens. Imagine waking up each day with a sense of possibility and excitement rather than dread or resignation. Imagine approaching challenges with confidence, knowing that you have the power to learn and grow from them. This is the power of the decision you're facing right now. It's not just about changing your thoughts, it's about changing your entire experience of life. It's about becoming the best version of yourself, the person you've always had the potential to be. So are you ready to make that decision? Are you ready to see your life in a new way? Are you ready to start this journey of transformation? The choice is yours, and it starts right now. Continuing with the next 3 sections of the outline, here's the expanded script. Now that we've talked about the power of decision and how life acts like a mirror, let's dive into something we all face at some point: getting stuck. You know that feeling, right? When life feels like it's on repeat, like you're just going through the motions day after day. It's like being on a hamster wheel. Lots of effort, but you're not really getting anywhere. So why does this happen? Why do we get stuck, even when we want to change? Well, there are a few reasons, and understanding them can help us break free. First, let's talk about habits. Our brains love habits. They're efficient, they're predictable, and they don't require much energy. That's great when it comes to things like brushing your teeth or driving a car. But it's not so great when those habits are keeping us stuck in a life we don't really want. Think about your daily routine. How much of it do you do on autopilot? You probably wake up at the same time, eat the same breakfast, take the same route to work. And while you're doing all these familiar things, your mind is probably running through the same old thoughts. I hate my job. I'm not good enough. Things never work out for me. These thought patterns are habits too, and just like physical habits, they can be really hard to break. Your brain has gotten used to thinking these thoughts. It's carved out deep neural pathways for them. So even when you try to think differently, your mind keeps slipping back into those familiar grooves. But here's the thing. Just because these thought habits are strong doesn't mean they're true. They're just thoughts you've thought so many times that they feel true. And this brings us to the second reason we get stuck. We mistake our thoughts for reality. Let's say you have the thought, "I'm not good at public speaking." If you think this thought often enough, it starts to feel like a fact. You might even say, I'm just not a good public speaker, that's just who I am. But is that really true? Or is it just a thought you've had so many times that you've started to believe it? The truth is, thoughts are not facts. They're just thoughts. But when we mistake our thoughts for reality, we limit ourselves. We close off possibilities before we even try. And this leads to the third reason we get stuck: fear. Fear is a tricky thing. On one hand, it's there to protect us. It keeps us from doing dangerous things like walking off cliffs or petting wild animals. But fear can also hold us back from positive changes. It can keep us stuck in situations that aren't good for us simply because they're familiar. Think about it. Have you ever stayed in a job you didn't like because you were afraid you wouldn't find a better one? Or stayed in a relationship that wasn't working because you were afraid of being alone? That's fear keeping you stuck. But here's the really interesting thing about fear. It often shows up when we're on the verge of something great, when we're about to step out of our comfort zone and into new possibilities. Fear tries to keep us safe by keeping us small, but a life of growth and fulfillment often requires us to face our fears and step into the unknown. So we've got habits, mistaking thoughts for reality, and fear. These are three big reasons why we get stuck. But there's one more I want to talk about, and it's a big one: focusing on what's wrong instead of what's right. Remember how we talked about life being like a mirror? Well, when we constantly focus on what's wrong in our lives, that's what the mirror reflects back to us. We see more and more evidence of things not working out, of life being hard, of us not being good enough. It's like wearing a pair of glasses that only let you see the color red. If you wear these glasses all the time, you might start to think the whole world is red. In the same way, when we focus only on what's wrong, we start to think that's all there is. This negative focus becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. We expect things to go wrong, so we notice when they do. We might even unconsciously make choices that lead to more negative outcomes, just to prove ourselves right. For example, let's say you believe you're bad with money. You might not bother to make a budget or look for ways to save, because what's the point? You're bad with money anyway, right? But by not taking these positive actions, you actually make it more likely that you'll struggle financially, which then reinforces your belief that you're bad with money. It's a vicious cycle. But here's the good news. Understanding these reasons why we get stuck is the first step to breaking free. Once we recognize these patterns, we can start to change them. We can start to question our habitual thoughts. We can start to face our fears. We can start to focus on what's right instead of what's wrong. And that brings us to our next big question. How do we actually make this shift? How do we break free from these patterns that keep us stuck? That's what we're going to talk about next. Now that we understand why we get stuck, let's talk about how we can get unstuck. And it all starts with a decision. Not just any decision, but a powerful, life-changing decision to see things differently. You might be thinking, wait a minute, I've made decisions to change before and nothing happened. And you're right. We've all had times when we've decided to make a change, maybe to eat healthier or exercise more or be more positive, and it didn't stick. So what makes this decision different? The power of this decision lies in its depth. It's not just a surface-level choice to do something differently. It's a fundamental shift in how you see yourself and the world around you. It's a decision to change your entire perspective. Think of it like this. Imagine you're wearing a pair of smudged, scratched-up glasses. Everything you see through these glasses looks dim and distorted. Now, you could try to change what you're looking at. You could move to a different room or look at different things. But as long as you're wearing those smudged glasses, everything is still going to look dim and distorted. But what if, instead, you decided to clean your glasses. Suddenly, everything would look clearer and brighter. You haven't changed what you're looking at, but you've changed how you see it. And that changes everything. That's what this decision is like. It's a decision to clean the lenses through which you view your life. It's a decision to see possibilities instead of problems, opportunities instead of obstacles, growth instead of failure. Now, I want to be clear about something. This decision isn't about ignoring reality or pretending everything is perfect. It's not about putting on rose-colored glasses and living in denial. Instead, it's about choosing to focus on what you can change rather than what you can't. It's about looking for solutions instead of dwelling on problems. It's about seeing challenges as opportunities for growth rather than as punishments or bad luck. Let me give you an example. Let's say you lose your job. That's a tough situation, and it's okay to feel upset or worried. But after that initial reaction, you have a choice. You can choose to see this as a disaster, as proof that life is unfair and nothing ever works out for you. Or you can choose to see it as an opportunity, a chance to reassess your career path, to learn new skills, to find a job that's an even better fit for you. The situation itself hasn't changed. You've still lost your job. But how you see the situation, your perspective on it, can completely change how you respond to it and what you do next. And this is where the real power of your decision comes in. When you decide to see things differently, you start to act differently. And when you act differently, you get different results. Going back to our job loss example, if you see it as a disaster, you might spend your time feeling sorry for yourself, complaining to friends, maybe not even looking for new jobs because you're convinced it's hopeless. But if you see it as an opportunity, you might start updating your resume, networking, learning new skills. You're taking action, and that action is much more likely to lead to positive outcomes. This decision to see things differently isn't a one-time thing. It's a choice you make over and over again, every day in big and small ways. It's choosing to see the good in a difficult situation. It's choosing to believe in yourself, even when things are tough. It's choosing to look for opportunities, even when they're not obvious. And here's the really amazing thing. The more you make this choice, the easier it becomes. It's like building a muscle. At first, it might feel difficult and unnatural. You might find yourself slipping back into old thought patterns. But every time you consciously choose to shift your perspective, you're strengthening that muscle. Over time, it becomes more natural, more automatic. You're literally rewiring your brain. You're creating new neural pathways, new habits of thought. And as these new thought habits become stronger, you'll start to notice changes in your life. You'll find yourself feeling more positive, more confident. You'll start to see opportunities you might have missed before. You'll handle challenges with more grace and resilience. But remember, this all starts with a decision. Your decision. Right here, right now, as you're watching this video, you have the power to make this choice. You have the power to decide to see your life differently. Now you might be thinking, this sounds good, but how do I actually do it? How do I make this shift in my thinking? That's a great question, and it leads us to our next topic. So we've talked about the power of deciding to see things differently, but how do we actually make this shift in our thinking? How do we start to change those deeply ingrained thought patterns that have been with us for so long? Let's break it down into some practical steps. The first step is awareness. You can't change what you're not aware of. So start paying attention to your thoughts. Notice when you're thinking negatively. Notice when you're focusing on problems rather than solutions. Notice when you're telling yourself limiting stories about who you are and what you're capable of. This might sound simple, but it's actually a powerful practice. Most of us go through our days on autopilot, not really noticing what we're thinking. By bringing awareness to our thoughts, we create a gap, a moment of choice between the thought and our reaction to it. Here's a little exercise you can try. For the next day or two, set an alarm on your phone to go off every hour. When the alarm goes off, pause for a moment and notice what you were just thinking. Don't judge the thoughts or try to change them. Just notice them. You might be surprised by what you discover. Once you've started to become more aware of your thoughts, the next step is to question them. Remember, thoughts are not facts. They're just thoughts, but we often treat them as if they're the absolute truth. So when you notice a negative or limiting thought, ask yourself, is this really true? How do I know it's true? Is there another way to look at this situation? For example, let's say you make a mistake at work and you have the thought, I'm so stupid. I can't do anything right. Instead of accepting this thought as truth, question it. Is it really true that you can't do anything right? Haven't there been times when you've done things well? Isn't it possible that everyone makes mistakes sometimes and this doesn't define your overall abilities? By questioning your thoughts, you start to loosen their hold on you. You create space for new, more empowering thoughts to emerge. The third step is to consciously choose a new perspective. Once you've noticed a negative thought and questioned it, you can decide to see the situation differently. This is where your power of decision comes in. Let's go back to our work mistake example. After questioning the thought, I'm so stupid, you might choose to see the situation this way instead. I made a mistake, but that's how I learn and improve. I'll do better next time. This new perspective acknowledges the reality of the situation. You made a mistake, but it frames it in a way that's constructive rather than destructive. It focuses on growth and improvement rather than self-criticism. Now, I want to be clear about something. This isn't about forcing yourself to think positive thoughts all the time. That's not realistic and it's not even desirable. Negative emotions and thoughts have their place. They can alert us to problems and motivate us to make changes. The goal isn't to eliminate all negative thoughts. The goal is to have a more balanced, realistic perspective. It's about not letting negative thoughts dominate your thinking or dictate your actions. The fourth step in making this shift is to take action based on your new perspective. Thoughts are powerful, but they're most powerful when they lead to action. When you choose a new way of seeing things, let that guide what you do. For instance, if you've shifted from seeing a job loss as a disaster to seeing it as an opportunity, take actions that reflect that new perspective. Update your resume, reach out to your network, explore training in new skills. Remember, every action you take based on your new perspective reinforces that perspective. It makes it more real, more solid in your mind. It's like you're voting for your new way of thinking with your actions. The fifth and final step is to practice gratitude and appreciation. This might sound a bit cliché, but there's a reason why so many successful people swear by gratitude practices. When you actively look for things to appreciate in your life, you start to shift your focus from what's wrong to what's right. And remember, what you focus on expands. When you focus on the good things in your life, you'll start to notice more good things. It's like you're tuning your mind to a different frequency, one that picks up more of the positive aspects of your life. A simple way to practice gratitude is to take a few minutes each day, maybe first thing in the morning or right before bed, to think of 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be big things. It could be as simple as a good cup of coffee, a kind word from a friend, or a beautiful sunset. Now, I want to address something important. As you start to make this shift in your thinking, you might find it challenging at times. You might have days where it feels like you're right back in your old thought patterns. That's okay. It's normal. Remember, You're rewiring years or even decades of thought habits. It takes time. The key is to be patient and persistent. Every time you notice a negative thought, every time you question it, every time you choose a new perspective, you're making progress. You're strengthening those new neural pathways in your brain. Think of it like learning a new language or a new instrument. At first, it feels awkward and difficult. You have to consciously think about every word or every note. But with practice, it becomes more natural. Eventually, you can have conversations or play songs without even thinking about it. The same thing happens with your thought patterns. At first, shifting your perspective might feel like hard work, but the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, it becomes your default way of thinking. And that's when you'll start to see real changes in your life. That's when you'll start to see different reflections in the mirror of life. That's when you'll start to unlock your true potential and become the person you've always known you could be. So, as we wrap up this section, I want you to remember this. The power to change your life is within you right now. It starts with a decision to see things differently, and it continues with daily practice, noticing your thoughts, questioning them, choosing new perspectives, taking action, and practicing gratitude. You have everything you need to make this shift. You have the awareness. You have the ability to question your thoughts. You have the power to choose new perspectives. You have the capacity to take action. And you have things in your life to be grateful for. All that's left is for you to decide. Are you ready to make this shift? Are you ready to see your life in a new way? Are you ready to unlock your true potential? The choice is yours, and it starts right now. Certainly. I'll continue with the remaining sections of the outline and add a conclusion, maintaining the same style and depth. Now that we've talked about how to make the shift in your thinking, let's explore what happens when you do. This is where things get really exciting, because the changes you make don't just affect you, they create a ripple effect that touches every aspect of your life. Think of it like dropping a pebble into a pond. The pebble might be small, but it creates ripples that spread out across the entire surface of the water. In the same way, the decision to change your perspective might seem small at first, but its effects can be far-reaching and profound. Let's start with how it affects you personally. When you begin to shift your focus from problems to solutions, from limitations to possibilities, you'll likely notice a change in your mood. You might find yourself feeling more optimistic, more energized. This isn't about forcing yourself to be happy all the time. It's about having a more balanced, constructive outlook on life. This shift in mood can have a big impact on your stress levels. When you're not constantly focused on what's wrong, when you're not always anticipating the worst, your body isn't in a constant state of stress. This can lead to better sleep, improved digestion, and even a stronger immune system. Remember, your mind and body are connected. What affects one affects the other. But the ripple effect doesn't stop with you. It spreads to your relationships too. When you're in a more positive state of mind, when you're focused on solutions rather than problems, you become a different person to be around. You might find that your conversations with others become more constructive. Instead of complaining about problems, you're discussing ideas and possibilities. This change in your energy can be infectious. People are often drawn to those who have a positive, solution-focused attitude. You might find that your relationships become stronger, more supportive. You might even inspire others to make similar changes in their own lives. The ripple effect continues into your work life. When you're able to see challenges as opportunities for growth, when you're focused on finding solutions rather than dwelling on problems, you become a more valuable employee or a more effective business owner. You might find yourself coming up with innovative ideas, taking on new responsibilities, or handling difficult situations with more grace and creativity. This shift can lead to new opportunities in your career. You might be offered a promotion or find the courage to start that business you've been dreaming about. Remember, opportunities often come disguised as challenges. When you change how you see things, you change what you see. The ripple effect can even touch your financial life. When you shift from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset, you start to see financial opportunities you might have missed before. You might become more open to learning about money management or investing. You might find the confidence to ask for a raise or raise your prices if you're self-employed. But perhaps the most profound impact of this shift is on your sense of purpose and fulfillment. When you're no longer stuck in negative thought patterns, when you're able to see the possibilities in every situation, you open yourself up to a deeper sense of meaning in life. You might find yourself pursuing goals that you previously thought were out of reach. You might discover new passions or rediscover old ones. You might feel a greater sense of connection to others and to the world around you. This is the true power of the ripple effect. It's not just about feeling better or achieving more, although those are certainly part of it. It's about becoming more fully yourself, about living a life that's richer, more meaningful, and more aligned with your true potential. Now, I want to be clear about something. This ripple effect doesn't happen overnight. Just like the ripples in a pond take time to spread, the effects of your changed perspective will unfold over time. There might be days when you don't notice much difference. There might even be days when you feel like you're sliding backwards. But remember, every time you choose to see things differently, every time you focus on solutions instead of problems, every time you choose gratitude over complaint, you're creating a ripple. And over time, those ripples add up. They build on each other, creating waves of positive change in your life. And here's the really beautiful thing. Your ripples don't just affect you, they touch the lives of everyone around you. Your changed perspective can inspire others. Your positive energy can lift others up. Your example can show others what's possible in their own lives. In this way, your decision to change your perspective isn't just about improving your own life. It's about making a positive impact on the world around you. It's about contributing to a shift in consciousness that extends far beyond yourself. So as we move into our next section, I want you to really think about this. Think about the ripple effect that your changed perspective could create. Think about how it could transform not just your life, but the lives of those around you. Are you ready to create those ripples? Now that we've explored the power of changing your perspective and the ripple effect it can create, you might be wondering, how do I get started? Well, I have a simple yet powerful exercise for you that can help kickstart this transformation. It's something you can do every day, and it takes just a few minutes. Here's the exercise. Every night before you go to bed, think of 3 good things that happened during your day. That's it. Simple, right? But don't let its simplicity fool you. This exercise can be incredibly powerful. Now, when I say good things, I don't necessarily mean big, life-changing events. In fact, it's often better to focus on small, everyday positive experiences. Maybe you enjoyed a delicious meal. Maybe you had a good conversation with a friend. Maybe you accomplished a task you've been putting off. Maybe you saw a beautiful sunset. The key is to really think about these good things. Don't just list them off quickly in your head. Take a moment to relive each positive experience. How did it make you feel? Why was it meaningful to you? This exercise does a few important things. First, it trains your mind to look for the positive. Remember how we talked about the mirror of life reflecting back what we focus on? Well, this exercise helps you focus on the good things in your life. The more you practice looking for the positive, the more positive things you'll notice. Second, This exercise helps shift your perspective before you go to sleep. Instead of lying in bed, worrying about tomorrow's problems or replaying the day's frustrations, you're focusing on the good things that happened. This can lead to better sleep and a more positive mood when you wake up in the morning. Third, over time, this exercise can help build a habit of gratitude. Gratitude is like a superpower for happiness and resilience. When you're grateful, it's hard to be stressed or anxious at the same time. Gratitude helps put problems in perspective and reminds us of the good things we might otherwise take for granted. Now, you might be thinking, but what if I had a really bad day? What if I can't think of 3 good things? That's a great question, and it brings us to an important point. This exercise isn't about denying reality or pretending everything is perfect. It's about training your mind to find the good, even in difficult circumstances. On tough days, you might have to look a little harder for those 3 good things. Maybe the good thing is that you made it through a difficult day. Maybe it's that you learned something from a challenging experience. Maybe it's as simple as the fact that you had a roof over your head or food to eat. The point is not to ignore the difficulties in your life, but to balance them with an awareness of the good things, no matter how small they might seem. This balance is key to maintaining a realistic yet positive perspective. As you practice this exercise night after night, you might notice some interesting changes. You might find yourself looking for good things throughout your day, knowing you'll want to remember them for your nightly practice. You might become more aware of the small pleasures and successes that you previously overlooked. You might also notice that your overall mood improves. By focusing on the positive aspects of your day right before sleep, you're more likely to wake up in a good mood. And starting your day in a positive state of mind can set the tone for the entire day. Over time, this simple exercise can lead to significant shifts in your perspective. It can help you develop a more balanced, appreciative outlook on life. And remember, this shift in perspective is the foundation for all the other changes we've talked about. So I encourage you to try this exercise. Start tonight. Before you go to sleep, take a few minutes to think of 3 good things that happened during your day. Do it again tomorrow night and the night after that. Make it a daily habit. And here's a tip. You might want to write these good things down in a journal. Writing them down can make the exercise even more powerful. It gives you a record of all the good things in your life which you can look back on during tough times. Plus, the act of writing engages your brain in a different way, helping to reinforce the positive memories. Remember, this exercise is just a starting point. As you get comfortable with it, you can expand on it. Maybe you want to share your 3 good things with a partner or friend each day. Maybe you want to start your day by thinking of 3 things you're looking forward to. The possibilities are endless. The most important thing is to start. Don't wait for the perfect time or for everything in your life to be going well. Start right where you are with whatever is happening in your life right now. Because the truth is, there are good things happening in your life every day. This exercise just helps you notice and appreciate them more. And as you do this, as you train your mind to look for the good, you're creating those ripples we talked about earlier. You're starting to change the reflection you see in the mirror of life. You're taking that first crucial step towards transforming your entire life. So, are you ready to start? Are you ready to begin this journey of transformation? Remember, it all starts with a decision, your decision. And that decision can start right now tonight with 3 good things. As we come to the end of our journey together, I want to take a moment to reflect on what we've explored. We've talked about the power of decision, the mirror principle of life, why we often get stuck, and how we can shift our perspective. We've discussed the ripple effect this shift can create and a simple exercise to help you get started. But more than anything, we've talked about the incredible power you have to change your life. And it all starts with a decision to see things differently. Now, I want to acknowledge something. Making this decision, committing to this new way of seeing things, it isn't always easy. There will be days when it feels challenging. There will be times when you slip back into old thought patterns. That's okay. It's part of the process. Remember, you're not just changing a few thoughts. You're rewiring patterns of thinking that might have been with you for years or even decades. It takes time, it takes patience, and most of all, it takes persistence. But here's the thing. Every time you choose to see things differently, every time you focus on solutions instead of problems, every time you choose gratitude over complaint, you're making progress. You're creating those ripples that will eventually transform your life. And the beautiful thing is, you don't have to wait to see results. Yes, the big changes might take time, but you can start feeling the effects of your new perspective right away. You might notice yourself feeling more optimistic, more energized. You might find yourself handling challenges with more grace and creativity. You might start seeing opportunities where you once saw only obstacles. These small changes are the seeds of bigger transformations. They're the first signs that you're changing the reflection in the mirror of life. And as you continue on this path, as you keep choosing this new perspective day after day, those changes will grow and multiply. You'll start to see changes in your relationships, in your work, in your sense of purpose and fulfillment. You might find yourself pursuing dreams you once thought were out of reach. You might discover strengths and talents you never knew you had. But perhaps most importantly, you'll be becoming more fully yourself. You'll be living a life that's more aligned with your true potential, a life that's richer, more meaningful, and more joyful. And remember, your transformation doesn't just affect you. As you change, you create ripples that touch the lives of everyone around you. Your changed perspective can inspire others. Your positive energy can lift others up. Your example can show others what's possible in their own lives. In this way, your decision to change your perspective isn't just about improving your own life. It's about making a positive impact on the world around you. It's about contributing to a shift in consciousness that extends far beyond yourself. So as we conclude, I want to leave you with this thought. The power to change your life is within you right now. It doesn't depend on your circumstances changing. It doesn't require you to have more money or a different job or a perfect relationship. It simply requires a decision, your decision to see things differently. That decision is available to you in every moment. You can make it right now as you're finishing this video. You can make it tomorrow morning when you wake up. You can make it in the middle of a stressful situation at work. You can make it when you're facing a challenge or when you're celebrating a success. Every time you choose to see the opportunity in a challenge, every time you choose to focus on solutions instead of problems, every time you choose gratitude over complaint, you're making that decision, you're changing your life. So I invite you right now to make that decision. Decide to see your life through new eyes. Decide to focus on possibilities instead of limitations. Decide to look for the good in each day. And then take action on that decision. Start with the simple exercise we discussed. Tonight, before you go to sleep, think of 3 good things that happened in your day. Do it again tomorrow night and the night after that. Make it a daily habit. As you do this, as you consistently choose this new perspective, you'll start to see changes. They might be small at first, but they'll grow. And before you know it, you'll look back and be amazed at how far you've come. Remember, your life is a reflection of your thoughts and beliefs. By changing those, you change everything. The decision is yours, and it starts right now. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I believe in you and the power you have to transform your life. Now go out there and create those ripples. Your new life is waiting for you. This completes the full script for the video. Your decision here changes everything. This video appears when you are ready. The script maintains a conversational tone, uses simple language, and provides in-depth explanations and examples throughout. It follows the structure of the outline, expanding on each section with engaging content and practical advice. The conclusion ties everything together and provides a final call to action for the viewer.